The billionaire mocked his ex-wife working as a waiter, then realized the host was her new husband. A story of ultimate redemption. Hey everyone, if you believe in justice and second chances, hit the like button now and subscribe to our channel. We deliver the most shocking and inspirational stories you won't find anywhere else. Don't miss what happens next. The champagne moment that crumbled a dynasty. The night glittered under opulent chandeliers, reflecting off the polished marble floor of the grand ballroom. The air was thick with the scent of money, superficial conversation, and vintage champagne. Marcus Hawthorne strode into the main hall with the casual arrogance of a man who owned every room he entered. His bespoke tuxedo was flawless, his arm possessively looped around the waist of Chloe Vance, his latest conquest, a striking blonde with a notoriously provocative smile. They moved with confidence until Marcus stopped dead. Across the room, gliding silently between the velvet ropes and the tuxedoed guests, serving flutes of champagne, was Sarah Dalton, his ex-wife. The initial shock on Marcus's face quickly melted into a cruel amusement. Well, look who decided to climb the social ladder," Marcus sneered, his voice loud enough to carry to several surrounding ears. Chloe let out a sharp, theatrical laugh. Sarah lowered her eyes, swallowing the surge of humiliation and shame. But what Marcus didn't know was that the man who had hosted this extravagant party, the owner of this very stately manor in Beverly Hills, was now Sarah's husband. And that truth was about to detonate in a firework display he'd never forget. A life built on lies and lost dignity. Sarah Dalton wasn't always the quiet woman moving with her head down among the tables. There was a time when her smile lit up any space. Born in a modest working-class neighborhood in Boston, Sarah learned the value of hard work and dignity early on. Her mother taught her that what mattered wasn't the money in her purse, but the love and strength in her heart. At 25, she met Marcus Hawthorne. He was charming, charismatic, and knew exactly what to say to make her feel like the center of the universe. At first, Marcus promised her a world of limitless luxury, designer bags, exotic trips, dinners at exclusive Manhattan restaurants. It truly seemed like a fairy tale, but in time, the real Marcus began to emerge. The humiliation started subtly. A comment here, a critique there, always about her clothes, her family, her humble background. Eventually, his words became sharp, constant swords. Marcus belittled her in public, ridiculed her in front of his friends, and privately made her feel utterly worthless. Yet, Sarah endured, out of love, fear, and habit, until one night, after a dinner where Marcus humiliated her in front of strangers, she made a decision. Enough. With only a single suitcase and a shattered heart, Sarah left the mansion. She started over, first as a waitress, then climbing the ranks in an event management company. It was during this period that she met Ethan Cole. Ethan was the polar opposite of Marcus. He was calm, soft-spoken, yet possessed a quiet strength. He wasn't a man who needed to tear others down to feel important. Over time, Ethan became her friend, then her confidant, and soon, her greatest support. He didn't just value her, he genuinely admired her resilience and strength. When Ethan proposed, Sarah was still afraid, but something in his eyes gave her the certainty that this time it would be different. Now, working at this party as part of the service team, Sarah never imagined she'd face the ghost of her past here. She was focused on perfection, on not causing trouble. Her only goal was to finish her shift and return to the safety of Ethan's arms. But when she looked up and saw Marcus, accompanied by Chloe, laughing and pointing at her, Sarah felt the ground disappear. Viewer interaction. If you were Sarah, would you turn and run to the kitchen? Or would you stand your ground and try to ignore him? Share your thoughts in the comments below. The public assault, Sarah had learned to be invisible. Every event she worked, she wore the most discreet uniform, her hair neatly pulled back, her makeup minimal. Her movements were calculated to attract no attention. Tonight was no different. She just wanted to go home. She had no idea Marcus Hawthorne would be on the guest list. Life, it seemed, had a cruel sense of irony. Ethan, a successful owner of multiple businesses, was a private man. That's why Sarah never associated her husband with the elite social circles of the party she was working. He'd kissed her goodbye that morning, wishing her a good shift, never mentioning that he was the host. She moved between the tables, heart pounding, trying to focus on her steps. Then, she heard that voice, a familiar, deep, cutting laugh. She froze. There he was, in the center of the room, standing as if he owned the world. Marcus's eyes met hers across the ballroom. The look of surprise quickly shifted to that familiar, cynical smirk. "Well, well, well," Marcus announced, loud enough for a dozen people to hear. "Isn't fate playing tricks? Sarah Dalton serving drinks. Seriously?" The conversation in their vicinity quieted. Sarah clenched her jaw, fighting not to reply. "Who would have thought?" Marcus continued, his tone venomous. "You, working as a waitress at a party like this?" "Well, He paused dramatically, wrapping his arm around Chloe's waist in an exaggerated gesture. "While I enjoy life." Chloe gave a forced, brittle laugh. She took a glass from Sarah's tray and gave her a mocking look. "Thanks for the service," she drawled, raising the glass to her lips with an ironic smile. Sarah's cheeks burned. Her hands shook, but she held the tray steady. "I suppose now you realize what you lost, don't you?" Marcus added, his voice overflowing with ego. The humiliation spread like ink on water. She just had to hold on, just a little longer. But what she didn't know was that someone else was watching the entire scene from a distance. Someone who wouldn't allow this degradation to continue. Ethan Cole, the host of the party, and her husband. If you feel Sarah's pain and want to see Marcus get what he deserves, please share this video with someone who needs a reminder that good people always win. The grand revelation. Marcus, emboldened by the audience, decided to escalate. He raised his champagne glass to the entire room. "Attention be please," he boomed. "I want to make a special toast." Sarah, trying to slip away, froze once more. "Tonight," Marcus continued, his voice dripping with poison. "I want to toast the twists and turns of life, to how some people," he turned to face Sarah directly, "fall so low that they end up serving the rest of us." Laughter erupted from his inner circle. Sarah stood pale, shaking uncontrollably, fighting back tears. "Wait a moment," he shouted, stopping her as she tried to retreat. "Where are you going? Come here, Sarah. Bring us more drinks. After all," he chuckled darkly, "that's your job now, isn't it?" The entire ballroom fell silent. All eyes were on her. Marcus walked slowly toward her, savoring the moment. Chloe stepped up, took a glass from Sarah's tray, and then, feigning clumsiness, accidentally spilled a few drops on Sarah's simple uniform. "Oops, my apologies, I'm so clumsy," Chloe said, without an ounce of sincerity. Marcus roared with laughter. Sarah was close to breaking. "You know, Sarah," Marcus said, leaning in, making sure everyone could hear. "I don't know what's worse, seeing you work as a waitress or knowing that even now you're still mediocre." General laughter followed, louder and more painful than before. A single tear escaped Sarah's eye. Before she could run, a deep, firm voice cut through the air, silencing the entire room. "Sarah!" The voice wasn't Marcus's. It was the voice that always made her feel safe. "Ethan." Sarah slowly turned her head. There he was. Ethan Cole, her husband, standing by the grand staircase, looking directly at Marcus. There was no confusion on Ethan's face, only a controlled fury. Ethan slowly descended the main staircase, his firm steps echoing on the marble floor. He stopped just a few feet from Marcus. "Are you enjoying yourself, Marcus?" Ethan's calm voice resonated through the silent hall. Marcus swallowed hard, forcing a smile. "Ethan, mate, I didn't know you were—" he stammered, reaching out a hand. Ethan didn't take it. "No, we're not friends," he responded, his tone colder than ice. "What you just did is unacceptable," Ethan continued. "Humiliating someone, a woman who is simply doing her job, in my house." Marcus tried to laugh it off. "Oh, Ethan, it was just a joke. You know how it is." Ethan's expression remained rock solid. "No, Marcus, I don't know how those things are, because I don't humiliate people, and I certainly don't humiliate." He paused, ensuring his next words landed like a thunderbolt. "My wife." The word wife hung in the air. A sudden, absolute silence fell over the room. Marcus went pale. He reeled back as if punched in the stomach. "Wife?" he whispered, unable to hide the fear. Ethan turned his gaze to Sarah, his eyes radiating tenacity. "Yes, Sarah. She is my wife, and I will not allow anyone to treat her like this." Marcus stumbled back, utterly destabilized. "Enough," Ethan said, his voice quiet but commanding. "I want you to leave. Now." The final victory and a new beginning. The humiliation was complete. Marcus and Chloe were escorted out by the security detail, heads bowed in shame, ignoring the hushed condemnation of the guests. The moment the doors closed behind them, Ethan turned and walked straight to Sarah. Ignoring the crowd, he gently took the tray from her trembling hands and whispered, "It's over. You're safe." Sarah broke down, but this time, the tears were of profound relief and emotion. Ethan embraced her tightly, protecting her from the world. The entire ballroom erupted in applause, not for the host, but for the justice they had just witnessed. Ethan took the microphone once more. "Tonight, we witnessed something that should never happen. Money, status, power. None of it gives anyone the right to humiliate another human being. The woman who was just insulted is not just an exemplary employee. She is my wife, and the strongest, bravest person I know." The ovation was spontaneous and overwhelming. What part of this story impacted you the most? Was it when Ethan stood up for his wife, or when Sarah found the strength to hold her ground? Tell us in the comments below. Don't forget to subscribe for more stories of justice and true love. Ethan took Sarah's hand and led her to the center of the dance floor. "Want to dance with me?" he asked with a tender smile. "Like this?" she asked, gesturing at her uniform. "Exactly as you are," he replied, pulling her close. The orchestra played a slow, romantic song. There, in the center of the ballroom, under the golden lights, Sarah and Ethan danced. Every turn, every step, was a silent victory. It was a sign to the world that dignity always finds its way back. She knew in her heart that this would be the last time anyone dared to humiliate her like that. She was no longer alone. The following days were filled with consequences. The video of Marcus's public humiliation went viral, leading to immediate business repercussions. His contracts were canceled, and his reputation crumbled. Chloe left him instantly. Sarah and Ethan, however, were stronger than ever. They moved into a quiet new home with a beautiful garden, where Sarah began to write, sharing her story of survival and ultimate triumph. She had learned that true love doesn't humiliate, wound, or destroy. True love protects, uplifts, and heals. What started as a night of deep humiliation ended as the beginning of a beautiful new life, one filled with light, hope, and second chances. Remember, life always finds a way to deliver justice. Comment below. Respect is always first. If you believe no one deserves to be humiliated. Tuyệt vời. Tôi rất vui vì bạn thích câu chuyện. Tôi sẽ tiếp tục câu chuyện thật chi tiết giữ nguyên văn phòng cuốn hút, lồng ghép tương tác khán giả và đảm bảo độ dài theo yêu cầu của bạn. The Ultimate Revenge, A New Beginning and the Final Blow, Part 2. The Aftermath. The gossip spreads like wildfire. The night at the grand ballroom reached its conclusion, but for everyone present, the real event had just begun. News of Marcus Hawthorne's spectacular public humiliation and Ethan Cole's powerful defense of his wife was all anyone could talk about. In the hours immediately following the party, the carefully curated social bubble of Beverly Hills was pierced by the truth. Guests who had discreetly recorded the confrontation were quick to upload clips. Within minutes, the saga of the billionaire's bitter mockery and the host's triumphant defense was trending across local social media and high society gossip blogs. Marcus's downfall. Outside the manor, Marcus was a portrait of a man unraveling. He desperately tried to stop Chloe, who was now a hurricane of fury. "You idiot!" she screamed, retreating to the parking lot. "All because of your pathetic ego. You ruined everything." She ended their relationship with a simple, brutal text message that very night. "I can't be with someone capable of doing that." Then, she vanished from his life. Marcus's phone buzzed relentlessly with messages from friends, colleagues, and even media outlets asking for comment. The social punishment was immediate and severe. Sarah's victory. Inside, Sarah was no longer the invisible server. Still in her simple uniform, she was now the most respected woman in the room. "You are so brave, Sarah," said one of the prominent women from the local charity committee, embracing her warmly. "I can't imagine how difficult that was, but you handled it with such dignity." Even hardened businessmen, people Sarah had only seen from afar, approached her. "If you ever need a job at my firm, just say the word," one respected CEO told her. "People with your character and resilience always have a place on my team." Ethan's stance. Ethan remained protective, yet effortlessly modest. He simply shook the hands of those who congratulated him. "I did what any decent man would do," he replied calmly. "My wife deserves all the respect in the world." The whole scenario was a living lesson. Money could buy luxury, but it could never buy respect. Power could open doors, but it could never force genuine admiration. Viewer interaction. Do you think Chloe did the right thing by leaving Marcus immediately? Does money or status matter when someone reveals such a cruel character? Let us know your perspective in the comments. The dance of dignity. After the initial rush of support, Ethan took Sarah's hand and led her towards the center of the dance floor. "Do you want to dance with me?" he asked, his eyes full of tender affection. Sarah looked down at her work uniform. "Like this?" "Exactly as you are," he insisted, pulling her gently toward his chest. The orchestra, sensing the significance of the moment, softly began a slow, romantic melody. The guests instinctively created a wide circle for them. And there, in the very heart of the room where she had been publicly humiliated just an hour before, Sarah and Ethan began to dance. Every turn, every slow step, every shared breath was a silent, profound victory. It was a direct, elegant response to every single tear Sarah had shed in the past. It was a clear signal to the world that her dignity was not only restored, but was now shimmering brighter than any diamond in the room. As they swayed slowly, Ethan whispered, "I love you." Sarah closed her eyes, the last of her pain washing away, and whispered back without hesitation, "I love you too." This dance was more than just a dance. It was a visible promise of their future, a moment of triumph captured on camera by several guests, who this time recorded a moment of true love and redemption. The final step, the new horizon. In the following weeks, the repercussions for Marcus continued to mount. The video's viral spread led to several major commercial partners cutting ties. Marcus tried to issue public statements, clumsily calling his behavior a misinterpreted joke. But the public had already judged him. Meanwhile, Sarah began to receive an outpouring of support from strangers and former colleagues. One afternoon, Ethan surprised her. He drove her to the very spot where he had proposed months earlier. "I've been doing some thinking," he said, taking her hands firmly in his. "I think it's time for another step." Sarah looked confused, but smiled. "What step?" Ethan pulled a small bunch of keys from his pocket. "Our new home," he announced. "A place far from all the noise, where you can start fresh, free from the shadows of the past." Tears streamed down Sarah's face, but these were tears of pure, unadulterated joy. The move was swift. The new house, located in a quiet, upscale coastal town in California, boasted a beautiful garden and, most importantly, a dedicated home office. Sarah's revelation. Inspired by everything she had overcome, Sarah decided to tell her story. She didn't want it to remain just a gossip item. She poured her heart, her pain, and her ultimate resilience into words. Her personal testimony of overcoming abuse and humiliation became a viral article in a major digital magazine, resonating with thousands of people worldwide. Sarah and Ethan's life continued, built on respect, shared projects, and unconditional love. Every morning he reminded her how much he admired her strength. Every night before sleeping, she thanked him for seeing her with the love and dignity she had always deserved. What began as the lowest point of public humiliation ended up being the glorious starting line of a new, radiant life. Call to action. If this story touched your heart and proved that second chances are real, share it with your friends and family. And if you want to keep following us for more true, inspiring stories of triumph and justice, subscribe to our channel right now and turn on notifications. Meaningful conclusion. The grand ballroom incident became a legend, a vivid, unforgettable lesson for the elite of Los Angeles. The lesson was clear. The true victory that night belonged not to the one with the most money or the biggest mansion, but to the woman who maintained her dignity and, against all odds, found a man who would fight for her. Sarah finally realized that for years she had allowed Marcus's cruelty to define her worth. That night, that perspective shattered. She learned that true strength is not about avoiding difficult situations, but about facing them and walking away with your head held high. The deepest wounds were beginning to heal. Sarah looked at Ethan, her heart full of gratitude and love. She knew that the true definition of love does not humiliate or destroy. True love protects, uplifts, and heals. She had won. She had found her place, at the center of a life filled with respect, love, and unwavering dignity. Final question for the audience. Have you ever witnessed or experienced a situation where someone was unfairly judged or humiliated based on their appearance or social status? Let us know in the comments. And remember to type, "Dignity always wins." Tu yet voi. Toi rut vui vi ban mun tip tuk. Voi yêu ko. Đừng rút ngang câu chuyện. Hãy viết chuẩn như câu chuyện gốc hoặc dài hơn. Tôi sẽ tiếp tục mở rộng và đào sâu hơn vào những sự kiện hậu kỳ. Tập trung vào sự nghiệp mới của Sarah và những phản ứng cuối cùng từ giới truyền thông và Marcus. From waitress to advocate, Sarah's viral triumph and the media storm. Part 3. The media firestorm and the corporate backlash. The viral video clip, often titled simply "The Humiliation and the Husband," continued to dominate online news and social platforms across the U.S. for weeks. The story wasn't just about high society drama. It became a symbol of class snobbery versus quiet dignity. Mainstream media, including major networks and renowned business journals, picked up the story. Headlines ranged from "Mogul's Meltdown," "Marcus Hawthorne's ego costs him millions," to The Waitress Who Took Down a Tycoon. Sarah Dalton's story of resilience. The business fallout. The negative publicity for Marcus Hawthorne's company, Hawthorne Holdings, was catastrophic. Investors began to panic, and the company's stock value plummeted by nearly 30% within a fortnight. Key figures in the industry who had once courted Marcus now refused to take his calls. 2 major international contracts, which Marcus had been counting on to secure his financial position, were summarily canceled. The reason cited was vaguely worded, but the underlying message was clear. His lack of character had become a financial liability. Marcus, desperate to save face, hired an expensive public relations firm. Their strategy of painting him as the victim of a malicious smear campaign, and Sarah as a gold digger seeking revenge, failed miserably. The authenticity and raw emotion of Ethan's defense and Sarah's silent dignity in the original video were too powerful for Marcus's manufactured lies to overcome. Isabella, Chloe, Vance's fate. The public humiliation affected Chloe as well. Her attempt to spill wine on Sarah's uniform was caught clearly on video, cementing her image as a cruel accomplice. She was quickly dropped by her high-profile social circle and even lost several lucrative brand endorsement deals. She tried to reach out to Marcus, not for a reunion, but for financial support, only to be coldly rejected. Marcus, in his own spiral, had no sympathy left for anyone, especially those who had abandoned him. Call to action. The court of public opinion can be powerful. If you believe that people who are cruel deserve to face the consequences, hit the like button and share this video to stand up for Sarah. The power of the pen. Sarah finds her voice settled in her new, peaceful coastal home. Sarah began to process her experience not with bitterness, but with a profound sense of purpose. Ethan encouraged her to view her story as a gift, a testament to her strength that could help others. In her sunlit home office, Sarah began writing a book. It wasn't merely a memoir of her toxic marriage. It was a deeply personal reflection on dignity after despair. She wrote about the gradual erosion of self-worth in an abusive relationship, the fear of leaving a life of luxury for an unknown future, the resilience required to rebuild a life from scratch, taking on humble jobs with pride, the difference between a partner who controls you, Marcus, and a partner who celebrates you, Ethan. Her writing was raw, honest, and compelling. She didn't seek revenge. She sought healing and accountability. The magazine feature. Before completing the book, she published an extended, powerful essay in the New York Observer, detailing the emotional and psychological toll of financial and verbal abuse. It was accompanied by a new photo of Sarah and Ethan, not in black tie attire, but casually dressed, smiling genuine, calm smiles in their garden. The article immediately went viral, solidifying Sarah's transition from the waitress in the video to a credible, powerful voice for survivors. She received tens of thousands of messages from people sharing similar stories, thanking her for giving them the courage to leave abusive situations. Viewer interaction. Sarah used her pain to help others. If you could give advice to someone struggling to leave a toxic relationship, what would be the single most important piece of advice? Tell us below. Your comment could change a life. Marcus's final, desperate attempt. As Sarah's star rose, Marcus's life continued its downward trajectory. Facing massive financial losses and a complete loss of social standing, Marcus grew desperate. He couldn't stand the idea that Sarah was not only successful without him, but was now respected in circles he was being pushed out of. In a fit of rage, he tried one last time to contact Sarah. He didn't call. He sent a long, venomous email, full of old accusations, new lies, and a thinly veiled threat to sue her for defamation over her public statements. Sarah, however, was no longer the frightened woman who would read his words and crumble. She read the email calmly, then forwarded it to her lawyer. The legal firewall. Ethan had insisted Sarah retain the best legal team to protect her during the divorce settlement and beyond. Her lawyer immediately sent a cease and desist letter to Marcus, making it clear that any further contact would result in a lawsuit for harassment and emotional distress. Crucially, the lawyer included a line that truly finished Marcus. The next time he tried to damage Sarah's reputation, they would make public the extensive evidence of his infidelity and financial misconduct that had been compiled during the original divorce proceedings. Faced with the threat of total public and financial ruin, Marcus finally retreated. The bully had been neutralized. The true meaning of wealth life for Sarah and Ethan settled into a beautiful, meaningful rhythm. Sarah completed her book, which went on to become a national bestseller, transforming her into a sought-after speaker and advocate for women's self-worth. She often traveled, sharing her message. Your dignity is the one thing no one can take from you unless you give them permission. One evening, as Sarah and Ethan were enjoying a quiet dinner on their patio overlooking the ocean, Sarah took his hand. "You know," she said, looking back at the grand ballroom night, "I wasn't just a victim that night. I was working, earning my life back. And then you defended me. You showed everyone the difference between false wealth and true worth." Ethan simply smiled, holding her gaze. "You defended yourself long before I walked down those stairs, my love. I just made sure the world saw it." Their life together, built not on opulence, but on mutual respect, honesty, and shared values, was the ultimate final victory. The true wealth of the story wasn't in the size of the mansion or the stock prices. It was in the size of their hearts and the unbreakable bond of their marriage. The biggest lessons in life often come from the hardest moments. If this story inspires you to value respect over status, let us know. Comment, "True worth." And if you are still with us, thank you for supporting stories that make a difference. Subscribe and join our community. Tuyet voi. Tôi rất vui vì bạn vẫn muốn tiếp tục. Voi yêu cầu đã được ghi nhớ là đừng rút ngắn câu chuyện, hãy viết chuẩn như câu chuyện gốc hoặc dài hơn. Tôi sẽ tiếp tục mở rộng câu chuyện bằng cách thêm một đoạn kết sâu sắc, tập trung vào những thay đổi lâu dài mà sự việc đã mang lại. Và một sự kiện công khai cuối cùng củng cố sự phục hồi của Sarah và sự trừng phạt cuối cùng của Marcus. The Legacy. Sarah's global voice and Marcus's final curtain. Part 4. A new platform. The voice of resilience. 2 years after the infamous Grand Ballroom incident, Sarah Dalton was no longer simply the waitress who was humiliated. She was now a nationally recognized author, a powerful advocate, and the founder of the Dignity Project, a non-profit organization dedicated to helping victims of emotional and financial abuse regain their independence. Her book, Dignity After Despair, had been on the New York Times bestseller list for 6 months. Sarah wasn't just talking about her past. She was building a brighter future for countless others. Her speaking engagements took her across the country, where she consistently shared a single, powerful message. Your job title, your bank account, and your clothing brand do not determine your value. Your character does. Ethan, immensely proud, managed her foundation's finances and operations, ensuring that her message reached the broadest possible audience. He often introduced her on stage, not as his wife, but as the most resilient woman I know. Call to action. If Sarah's journey from humiliation to national advocate inspires you, show your support by hitting the like button and subscribe. Let's celebrate the power of true resilience. The unexpected invitation. Face-to-face accountability. One day, Sarah received an unexpected invitation from Harvard Business School to be the keynote speaker at an annual Ethics in Business Summit. The topic? The responsibility of wealth and the true cost of moral bankruptcy. It was an immense honor, and a perfect platform. Sarah accepted immediately. During her preparation, her lawyer called with startling news. Marcus Hawthorne, stripped of his major contracts and social standing, was now facing multiple lawsuits and was on the brink of filing for personal bankruptcy. The consequences of his single moment of cruelty had finally caught up to his entire empire. The final hammer blow came when the lawyer revealed Marcus was attending the same Harvard summit. He had been invited by a distant, struggling relative, a last-ditch effort to network and salvage his image. Viewer. Interaction. Knowing that Marcus will be in the audience, how should Sarah change her speech? Should she address him directly or let her success speak for itself? Give us your strategic advice in the comments. The keynote, the unscripted moment, the night of the summit arrived. Sarah, impeccably dressed and radiating quiet confidence, stood before an auditorium packed with business leaders, journalists, and students. Tucked away in the back row, looking visibly older and defeated in a worn suit, was Marcus Hawthorne. Sarah began her speech, focusing on her foundation's work and the ethics of treating all employees, regardless of position, with respect. She spoke about humility, resilience, and the difference between a successful business and a valuable legacy. Then, she paused, her eyes scanning the room, landing gently on Marcus. She deviated from her prepared script. 2 years ago, Sarah said, her voice clear and strong, I stood in a service uniform, being openly mocked by a man who believed his money made him superior. That night, I learned that the most dangerous form of poverty is not financial. It is the poverty of character. She continued, still holding Marcus's gaze. I realized that the moment a person uses their power to humiliate another, they don't elevate themselves. They simply announce to the world the exact limits of their own self-worth. Marcus visibly flinched. He slumped further into his seat. He was no longer the arrogant predator. He was just a man facing the consequence of his choices. Sarah then concluded with a powerful statement, looking directly at the future business leaders in the front rows. If you want to build an empire that truly lasts, you must start with the foundation of respect. Because in the end, a golden throne built on cruelty is less stable than a simple chair built on kindness. The market may forgive a bad decision, but the world rarely forgives a bad character. The applause that followed was deafening, a standing ovation that lasted for several minutes. As Sarah left the stage, she walked past the back row. Marcus looked up, a plea for recognition, perhaps even pity, in his eyes. Sarah simply met his gaze, offered a small, neutral nod, and continued walking. There was no anger, no triumph, no need for petty revenge. Her quiet acknowledgement was the final, decisive closure. She didn't need to speak to him. Her success, her dignity, and her powerful legacy had said everything that needed to be said. The final curtain. A few months later, the news broke. Marcus Hawthorne filed for bankruptcy. He disappeared from the public eye completely, stripped of his wealth, his status, and his pride. Sarah and Ethan, meanwhile, welcomed their first child, a beautiful baby girl. They named her Hope. Their life was complete, a testament to the fact that every ending is simply a new beginning, and that the greatest triumphs are always found in the quiet strength of the human spirit. Meaningful conclusion. This story reminds us that true victory is not found in tearing others down, but in quietly rebuilding ourselves and lifting others up. The final score of life is not tallied in dollars, but in the respect we earn and the dignity we maintain. What is the most important lesson you will take away from Sarah's story? Share your thoughts below and use the hashtag Dignity always wins. Thank you for following this incredible journey with us. The echoes of justice, the legacy of respect, and the final lesson. Part 5. The Epilogue. The Rippling Effect. A Societal Domino. The incident involving Sarah and Ethan at the gala was not just a personal story. It became a genuine case study in business schools and a hot topic of discussion in corporate boardrooms. Major corporations across the U.S., particularly those in service and events industries, began to scrutinize and revise their internal policies regarding respect and employee treatment. The term dignity policy emerged as a new standard, demanding that clients and partners commit to treating all service staff, from security guards to bartenders, with absolute respect. The repentance of the bystanders. Many of the guests who had been present at the original gala eventually sought out Sarah or Ethan to offer private apologies. They didn't apologize for Marcus's actions, but for their own passivity and silence. One prominent business magnate, who had nervously laughed at Marcus's jokes, sent a lengthy letter. In it, he wrote, "I laughed not because I found it funny, but because I was too cowardly to stand up. I prioritized my professional network over my own integrity. Your story has fundamentally changed the way I run my company and how I view my employees." This individual later became a major donor to Sarah's Dignity Project. Call to action. Sometimes, silence is complicity. If you believe we must speak up against injustice, comment. Speak up for dignity, and subscribe to our channel to spread this vital message. The impact on Ethan. The strength of quiet courage. For Ethan Cole, the act of defending his wife in front of the elite crowd reshaped his professional image. He was no longer merely a successful entrepreneur. He was cemented as an ethical leader. In business negotiations, partners looked not just at his bottom line, but at the integrity he had demonstrated. His and Sarah's story helped him secure numerous high-profile contracts with companies that valued moral leadership. Ethan often told Sarah, "I always tried to stay away from the spotlight, but the moment I spoke up, I realized that true wealth lies in using your power to protect those who have no voice." Marcus. The finality of silence. After filing for bankruptcy and fading into obscurity, Marcus Hawthorne attempted to live an anonymous life. However, his bitter legacy remained. Most of his family and former friends cut off contact, not because he was poor, but because they wanted no association with a man whose reputation was so morally tainted. He became a cautionary tale. Arrogance and disrespect can destroy everything, even an empire built on money. The sweetest taste of happiness. Years later, on their wedding anniversary, Sarah and Ethan sat on their beach patio watching the sunset. Little Hope, now a spirited young child, played nearby in the sand. Sarah looked at her bright, happy daughter, then turned to Ethan. "I once thought my life would be defined by Marcus's tears and insults." Ethan squeezed her hand. "Never, my love. Your life is defined by the courage to walk away, the faith you put in yourself when you took that serving job, and the love you've brought into my life." Sarah smiled, a genuine, radiant smile. She understood that her former waitress uniform was not a symbol of failure. Instead, it was the armor of her self-respect, the proof of her resilience, and the launchpad for her magnificent new life. Their life together was living proof that justice may arrive slowly, but it always arrives in the most fitting form. Sarah hadn't just won. She had created an eternal legacy, a reminder that human dignity is always the most valuable asset. The final conclusion and ultimate CTA. The story of Sarah, Ethan, and Marcus is a profound reminder for all of us. How we treat others, especially those we perceive as beneath us, is the true test of our character. What is the final lesson? It doesn't matter what you wear or what your job title is. What matters most is the dignity and kindness you carry in your heart. How do you think this story will impact arrogant people like Marcus? Comment below and use the hashtag #TheDignityProject. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe to our channel to help us spread stories of integrity and kindness. Thank you for joining us to the very end.